mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 2 of HBO's Euphoria, entitled Out of Touch. I think this episode does a lot more, much more so than the first episode, of kind of giving us an idea of the direction that the show wants to take these characters this season. And actually, I find a lot of these to actually be really compelling. I'm excited for this season because I didn't know what to think coming in. Like I don't like what do you do for a season 2 of this type of show? And now they've kind of set up some paths, I think, for all these major characters and where they're going to go. And most of these I find really interesting, and I'm interested to see where they go. But there are a couple that I'm not too into. I'm going to start with the one that I'm the least into, which is actually what they did this episode. They seem to kind of try to make Nate into a sympathetic character, and I'm not really interested in that. You know, the whole idea of Rue, narrating this Nate kind of like backstory or narrating Nate's feelings and his nature. I think that aspect is interesting because Rue narrates and tells us a lot of things that she's not present for or that she's not sober for. So the idea of Rue saying this is what this character is dealing with, I look at Rue as kind of an unreliable narrator, and her almost painting Nate as a sympathetic character, I wonder if that's a mistake on her part, and that we're not supposed to be sitting here going, oh, Nate would have a much better life if he had met Cassie first. And then this whole thing of Maddie bringing out the worst in him. And, if he had been with Cassie, he'd have had a happy life. He would have needed his dad. He would have married her. They had a kid with her, all this kind of stuff. I think that, this is an unreliable narrator telling us that this is how Nate feels, which might not actually be the case. And there's some, I think, evidence in the episode to confirm that. And if that ends up being what happens, then that's a lot more interesting to me. But the idea that like Nate might be conflicted, like, oh, if only I had been with Cassie first instead of Maddie, I'd be so much better off. I'm not really interested in the idea of Nate being a piece of shit only because he chose Maddie instead of Cassie. I'm not really interested in that. But the idea that Nate could be that Rue could be an unreliable narrator in telling us this, and that Nate really is just a piece of shit, I think that is interesting. But as of right now, I'm not really interested in him being a sympathetic kind of character. But they do some interesting things with him that make me wonder if it is actually him being interested in Cassie, or if he is just really a piece of shit that is just doing what he does. And I think that some of the evidence that we have for that is the fact that, once he does decide to finally meet up with Cassie after she's badgering him, I'm confused on why she's so into him, by the way. But I think with Cassie, it's just and I think Maddie says this directly, that she just needs to always be with somebody. Like, she needs that validation of being in a relationship to feel better about herself. So when she's single, she feels like shit, and now Nate gives her some attention, and now it's like, somebody I can latch on to. I find that interesting as well. But, he finally talks to her, and he takes her to like this construction site. And I'm thinking, like, is he about to kill her? like what is going on here? That she gets out, takes off running. How he finds her atop one of these various incomplete houses is beyond me. But somehow he finds her. And, he took her to the construction site in the first place to tell her that they can't see each other. And I think part of that is part of Nate's game almost. Like he doesn't necessarily really mean that. He just knows that Cassie's going to respond to that in a way that's going to work for him because he's such a fucking piece of shit. But he chases her down. He finds her, on the upper level of one of these houses. And for one, after you just went through all this, bringing her to this weird construction site to essentially tell you can't see each other, he decides he is going to start, making moves on her. He starts to go down on her. Like, why would you do that if you really didn't want to have any kind of relationship with this person? And then in the midst of doing that, why would you bring up Maddie? Like, that just seems, I don't know. He just, every decision the wrong one with Nate. So yeah, I'm unsure the direction we're going with Nate. I like the idea, like I said, of him just being a piece of shit and Rue being an unreliable narrator, and there really isn't too much good in him. But they tinker with that too, about how his father made him this way and how he hates his father and all that kind of stuff. But I also like the fact that they're they reintroduced this tape of his father Cal with Jules, which Maddie has, and we actually end the episode with Cal asking Nate, like, "You got that tape, right?" In which we don't get an answer, but we know that Maddie has it, which is an interesting turn of events. Well, not an interesting turn of events. We already knew that, but it could lead this in a direction that's pleasing. Now, mostly everything else, even though I even gave some compliments to the Nate stuff, everything else I'm really liking. So next thing I want to talk about is this Jules, Elliot, Rue kind of storyline here. It's compelling to me to think that Rue could be finding a connection with Elliot via drugs because, well, one, we know we don't want her to get deeper and deeper into drugs, which she's doing. Elliot even says, like, is it cool? Is it smart for us to be hanging together? We seem to bring out the worst in one another. And side note, even in a different scene, Jules' dad asked her if Rue is bad for her. But all of these people are bad for one another, by the way. But finding a connection with Elliot via drugs is dangerous because obviously it puts her more into drugs. But then it helps her find a connection with someone else who's not Jules in a similar way to how she connected with Jules. And the idea of her moving toward Elliot and away from Jules via drugs when Jules is trying to stay clean, wants her to stay clean because what they have is real. And you feel like Rue feels the same way. But I just feel like if Rue's present day happiness moment to moment involves being high, she's going to be spending more time with Elliot than she's spending with Jules. Jules will almost kind of become the person that's keeping her away from enjoying life. Like, she might enjoy being with Jules, but she's probably be sitting there like, I can't even be high. I can't talk about being high. Like, nothing. I just got to sit here and just be sober as fuck all this time. And like the drugs and Elliot driving a wedge between Rue and Jules is an interesting path to me. And then I also think that it could make things even worse for Rue because we know also how much Jules means to her as it pertains to her ability to stay away from drugs. So, like, let's say hypothetically, she gets in too deep with Elliot. She says, okay, this needs to stop. But now Jules is already gone. Like, I can't deal with you no more. Like, you chose Elliot or whatever. And now Jules in a position where she's probably going to get even worse. I mean, Rue is in a position where she's probably going to get even worse. So I think there's really interesting directions they can take everything here. I keep saying interesting, but that's how I gauge television. Like, am I interested in this or not? Did you sell me on this? It's not me lacking a vocabulary. It's just how I determine whether or not some form of television is going to gain and maintain my attention. It just needs to interest me in one way or another, whether that's a serious way, whether that's I think it's funny, or whatever. It just needs to interest me. So I just want to say I have a vocabulary. It's just that's just how I gauge it. We also see Rue meet up again with Ali, her sponsor. What's his name? Coleman Domingo, I think is his name, something like that. Great solo episode with the two of them in between seasons. I implore you to watch it. I have a review of that episode on this channel, by the way. She comes to the NA meeting and she's like completely zonked out. He drives her home. He actually insisted he come in to meet her mother. And then after he leaves, the mother says that he's handsome. And I think that could go somewhere. Like, can you imagine the idea of Rue having someone like that as a father figure in her life? That could be really good for her. I'm sure it'll create a lot of tension at first if they do start seeing each other, but that could be somewhere where, like, if this show has they have a 3-season run plan, that could be an interesting season 3 angle to have him kind of mentoring her from a more personal place, not just she can't just walk away from him in a coffee shop or leave the NA. It's like, you go home, he there. So, you gotta, she can't get high at home. Like, I think that could be an interesting direct. I mean, they could do that this season, but I don't know. I feel like that's somewhere they might touch on that a little bit this season and maybe explore it a little bit more next season. But I'm curious if Jules and Elliot are going. I keep saying Jules, Rue and Elliot are going to continue to get closer. I think they probably will, and that's going to make things really hard for Jules and Rue. So we'll see where that goes. I think the thing that interests me the most in the show right now is Fez and Lexi. I mentioned last week that I think that them as a couple is a very intriguing idea. I like them as a couple. I like to see more of that. But I was concerned on how she would react to what he did to Nate. And this episode touched on that. And they spent some time talking about how Lexi felt about that. But ultimately, Lexi ends up going up to his store and clearly on some flirtatious type shit. And I love how the actor who plays Fez, his name is, I know his name, but it's escaping me right now. But Angus something. How he, I'm not sure if Fez did not understand that she was there for him, or if he did understand, but he likes her so much that he's actually kind of nervous. But either way, he was like it'd be weird to describe a character like Fez this way, but it was almost cute how he just seemed to totally be fumbling this opportunity with Lexi when it was very clear that Lexi was there for him. And he's just bringing up, he should have explained Faye more. Like, yeah, she live with me now. Like, he should have explained that more. But I think he was just so either oblivious or nervous. Either one, I like it for him. But that is a very, I think, a nice relationship. Kind of like the opposite of Rue and Jules. You know, like Rue and Jules, like they are at times bad for one another. But I feel like Lexi can help bring up Fez. But the problem is that now that Cal knows that Fez is the one who beat up Nate, now Cal's giving this menacing presence. And now, I mean, you don't even need Cal for me to say this, but it's not safe for Lexi to be around Fez. And I think that's going to be the part that they're probably going to really explore this season, is the fact that they might be good for one another personally, but Lexi just being in his presence is not safe for her. And I think that's something that we would all probably like to see. And I thought the scene of Cal being at the store with supposedly the gun in his pocket was a super intense scene, like really well done. Having him kind of like walk around menacingly. I like the shot where, you know, Lexi's trying to avoid him seeing her, and he walks, and you don't even see him. I thought this is a great way to shoot this scene. You don't even see him. You just see his arm kind of like reach over her to grab some candy or something from where she's at. Like, I see you. I'm right here behind you. I see that you're here. I thought that was a great scene, man. Also, Kat and Ethan, I find them to be, I'd say, the second least interesting thing going on. Kat really just, you know, she makes this pro and con list for Ethan where they're all pros, and she can't think of any cons, and realizes that like her problem with Ethan isn't Ethan, it's her, and it's because she just wants more excitement. And that's all it really boils down to, because, you know, we know what all she was doing last season. She want to get her OnlyFans back popping. Like, she doesn't want to live like this toned down kind of subdued life where her and Ethan like read books together and kiss each other on the cheek. She wants to get Dothraki fucked, and then like that's what she wants. And there's a nice little dream sequence where a Dothraki warrior kills Ethan, and then comes in and seduces her, and it's all kind of, it's pretty funny, but it does give you a chance of gives you the opportunity to see that she's way more interested in that sort of lifestyle. She even looks longingly back at that mask she used to wear on her in her videos. You know, she wants that, but she also doesn't want to hurt Ethan, and she also knows that like dumping a good guy for the purposes of getting fucked by the Dothraki or doing your OnlyFans, whatever, makes her a bad person. That's how she feels, and she's gonna have to reconcile with that. And I find that to be a little interesting. Like, I feel like more work needs to be done on Kat, honestly. And then lastly, Maddie is suspicious of Nate. She calls him while he's with Cassie. Then she FaceTimes him, which reads to me like, you know, I called you, I want to know what's going on. Now I FaceTime, now I want to see where you at and who you with. But that doesn't work if he doesn't pick up the phone. Like, if he didn't pick up the phone for the call, why would he then pick it up for the FaceTime? But whatever. She should have started with the FaceTime and then called. Because then if he might not pick up the FaceTime because he knows he's with Cassie. But if you then just do a regular call, he might pick that up to save face. But you did it in the wrong order, Maddie. You're not thinking. But Maddie is concerned about whatever he's doing. But mainly this episode with Maddie, we find out that she has this babysitting job where she babysits for this rich couple. And she, you know, while they're gone, all she does is go in there, she tries on the mom's clothes and the jewelry or whatever. And they come back earlier, and I guess earlier than she expected, and she has to put all this stuff back, and she almost gets caught. I think she will still get caught, leaving that drawer halfway open, but she doesn't get caught in the moment. But the mom comes in. The mom is Minka Kelly, who, if you recently, you would see her on Titans. you don't cast Minka Kelly for a one-off, like, oh, okay, here's, it's just one of these parents kind of deal. You don't cast Minka Kelly for that. And then they linger on, as Maddie's leaving, the mother calls back to her and she thinks she's caught, but it's really just to help her unzip her dress. But they linger on the dress unzipping, and then I think she like holds her hand gently and says thank you for being whatever. Something's gonna happen there. This is not gonna be a one-off. You don't cast Minka Kelly for the one-off. Minka Kelly's gonna be here for probably for the majority of this season, and will probably be someone who will form some sort of relationship with Maddie. It could be a thing where she discovers that Maddie's using her stuff and maybe use that, like, to hang over her head to pressure her into doing some sexual stuff with her or with her and her husband. I don't know, but I think that's gonna get really uncomfortable as the season progresses. So that's pretty much all that was covered here. I think all of these things are really, interesting. And yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the season. I think this is gonna be pretty cool. Oh, and lastly, of course, the dick count for this episode 1. We only have the one dick shot. It's when Kat's imagining the Dothraki guy fucking her, and he like twists his body, and his hard dick's there. I think there's gonna be some episode where there's like mega dicks, like not not like in size, but in quantity. Like there's probably gonna be somewhere I'm gonna be like, yeah, dick count was 25. like I don't know, but yeah, I'm enjoying this season so far. I was a little concerned at first, but this episode, I think now that we have a direction for these characters and we're getting some more insight into how they're feeling, how they're interacting with one another, all that good stuff. I find all of their directions to be pretty compelling. So looks like this is going to be another great season. So I'm in it for the long haul, and I'll see you guys over the course of the next 8 episodes. And until next Sunday, peace.